How many more do I need in my game to level up? 8 socks. Wait, this is not the right stream that I just joined. Did this go live? Yeah, so why didn't it join when I clicked join?
Anyway.
Do I have to refresh it?
And we begin here at 4 o'clock with breaking news. One person is dead after being struck by a car. You can see on this map where it happened on Northwest 23rd Avenue between Everett and Westover Road. Our Alma McCarty joins us.
Okay, that's the right stream. Be the first to comment.
What do police know about this so far?
Well, officers are still investigating this deadly incident that happened around 1 o'clock this afternoon. And like you said, on Northwest 23rd near Everett. That's
Can I send
right
a gift to myself? Let's try.
My shoulder behind me. So yes, this one block.
You can't send an award to yourself.
That is what is currently being blocked right now. So it is impacting traffic on Northwest 23rd. The details at the moment, though, are pretty slim. But what we do know is one person was killed and that the driver involved.
Okay, how many more socks do I need?
On the scene and is cooperating with investigators. The major crash team is on site. We spoke with one woman who lives in this area. Take a listen.
I believe a pedestrian was pinned between the big truck down there and a small car that's parked on the side of 23rd on the opposite side.
Certainly a tragic situation, and we will have more details as police continue to release them. I did hear briefly from Portland police that are on the scene that this should be cleared, they believe, within the next hour or so, but just something to keep in mind if you are driving here in Northwest Portland tonight. And again, we will release more information as we get it on KGW News. But for now, reporting live in Northwest Portland, Alma McCarty.
Alma, thank you. Well, we are off to a cooler and windy start to the week on the Oregon coast.
Miserable.
70 miles per hour. For much of the day, it was under a
Hello,
high
Bobby
wind
Shadow.
warning. Now, it's been calmer closer to the city, but still another
How are you?
rain-soaked day downtown. Winds in Portland topped out at just over 25 miles per hour.
25 miles an hour, I heard
coverage
them.
for you this afternoon. Joe Ranieri will look at the impact
See if
of
I
high
can
winds out on the coast.
get,
But first, let's head
trying to
over
level
to
up in my game.
Matt Zaffino. He's here with a look at
There's
that
a speaker at 5. I don't know what the topic is. I didn't check yet.
First of all, this morning it was
It's
kind of warm out there.
4:43.
This morning, okay, still pretty balmy. Not the case anymore. Temperatures dropped down to 48 degrees, but the winds have dropped off as well. This is out at the Reserve Golf Course.
Freaking cold, in other
47
words.
miles an
All
hour.
right, Wolf
So
says I should
really
be nicer.
blustery day, as you mentioned. We had a wind gust on the coast of Lincoln City at 74 miles an hour. Several spots around Astoria at 68 miles an hour. The Fremont Bridge in Portland measured a gust with wind gauge there of 42 miles an hour. In Salem, 35 miles an hour. But the granddaddy gust of them all was up on Mount Hood. No surprise, at 7,000 feet, top of the Magic Mile chairlift, 125 miles an hour. There's nobody up there unless there's people up at Silcox Lodge. But nonetheless, that is wild. And those ones will all be decreasing.
Okay, now I only need
the showers are
4
also
more
decreasing.
socks.
We've got some out there yet, but we're going to see much calmer weather, not only tonight, but right on through the week. There's even a couple of dry days to talk about. Brittany, back to you.
Dry days,
Looking
that
forward
would be
to that
nice.
break. Thanks so much, Matt. Let's head over to Joe Ranieri, who's joining us live in Warrenton along the northern Oregon coast. Joe, have you seen any break today from all that wind and rain?
No.
Hey there, Brett. Yeah, not really. We've been seeing, not as breezy conditions, but gusts have been basically holding a constant anywhere from about 30 to 40 miles an hour. And some of those gusts were pretty impressive that Matt Zaffino was just talking about. But we're live here at Fort Stevens Park, where you can kind of see behind me, breezy conditions have been moving through. And at one point, gusts near us were close to 70 miles per hour earlier today. But the one thing that we are seeing, though, is a drier conditions. But the wind has really been staying with us basically since we got here earlier this afternoon. I want to show you some video that we shot as we came over here over in Seaside. This kind of shows you just how windy things were earlier today. Now, this was around 11:30 when gusts were really strong along Seaside. Along the Esplanade there, people came to check out conditions from their cars, seeing high winds and crashing waves. Others viewed the stormy weather from the comfort of their hotel rooms. But we also found John Mays, who was walking around Seaside with his family doing a little shopping.
Windy, wet, beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's very windy. We were out
Freaking
on the beach
miserable.
yesterday getting blown around.
Now, I checked with Pacific Power earlier this afternoon, and at one point there was just under 1,000 customers without power from all the wind that we've been seeing. Now, back here live at Fort Stevens State Park, you can kind of start to see a little bit of some improving conditions out there. We're starting to see a little bit.
All right, I still need 4
breaks in the rain,
socks.
but again, the wind has been holding steady here the last couple of hours, anywhere from about 25 to almost 40 miles per hour. And we're going to start to see a little break from the rain, but it has been absolutely nasty with the wind out here. It's so strong at times, Brittany, it's tough to get your bearings where you have to kind of walk very slowly because you feel like you're going to get knocked over. And judging by some of those numbers that we've been telling you about, it's no surprise it's been so windy and stormy out here along the coast. Back to you.
Yeah, definitely windy, but with that break in the rain, looks for a really nice sunset happening out there. So that's good. All right, thanks so much, Joe. Well, Western Washington is dealing with more stormy weather as well as another atmospheric river dumps rain on the region. Whatcom County, which is along the border with British Columbia, is under a flood emergency. Parts of Bellingham are underwater and all schools in Bellingham are closed today.
As I drive around the whole county, North County, everywhere you go, there's water over the roads. There's cars getting stuck. There's people getting turned around. I've never seen it this bad, ever.
National Weather Service says river flooding is expected to be the biggest impact, with the Cascades and Olympics taking the brunt of the storm. Winds are also expected to increase, which could cause possible landslides. And we'll continue to keep an eye on this wet, windy weather throughout the show. You can always get updates on any traffic closures and even power outages online. You can watch for the alerts on kgw.com and, of course, on our social media channels.
Still need
Well,
4.
we're talking rain today,
4
but
more.
we're also preparing for the snowy season. And once winter weather hits, you might notice some changes in the way the state deals with clearing roads. That's because the Oregon Department of Transportation has a shortage of workers. Brian Clerkley spoke with ODOT officials today about the problem. And Brian, this is a serious shortage.
That is right, Brittany. The agency has never had a larger staffing shortage than right now. There are more than 24 openings for snowplow drivers here in the Portland metro area. And it's a statewide problem, though, and if it continues, you could see a different level of service.
But you may see more snow on the road. You may see a little bit less treatment. So we're really recommending that folks take their time.
Ted Miller with the Oregon Department of Transportation says the staffing shortages from 2020 have continued into 2021. And the timing is bad because winter is coming. He says a lot of the shortages come from retirements.
Portland is one of the ones that we have lost a few people. We're down a little over 30 TMS2s, and those are the folks that go out day and night and plow the road.
Miller says ODOT is actively looking for people to fill these roles. Because of the shortage, plowing the roads will be a big challenge. Some will take priority over others.
You may see more road closures. It's possible, and those would be those level of service roads that are lower priority that we hit typically once or twice a shift. It's possible if we have heavy snow, we may end up having to close a road.
The staffing issues are also happening at the Washington State Department of Transportation.
And being short-staffed this year, we're gonna, cover all of our priority roads first, and then we also have some green and white crews that can backfill some of those open spots.
So when it comes to the city of Portland, the Bureau of Transportation is in charge of the roads, and they do have a few openings, but they say fill-ins are available if snow becomes an issue.
So, Brian, we know from what you were finding out that ODOT usually has about 1,100 snowplow drivers, but they still need about 150 more this year. So are these full-time jobs?
Well, Brittany, the positions are both full-time and part-time, and depending on which type of job you take, they pay anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 a month. Back to you guys.
Good to know. All right, thanks so much, Brian. Well, school districts are also dealing with staffing shortages, but a recent rule change is helping. It allows people 18 and up to become a substitute teacher. Before, you needed a college degree. Well, this rule change came from the Oregon Teacher Standards and Practices Commissions. It makes a temporary emergency substitute teaching license available. Administrators in the Salem-Keizer district say, while their district requires a high school diploma as well, the change has opened the door for more applicants.
The opportunities are greater than they've ever been in terms of CSPC's rule changing, allowing folks to get into the classroom if they go through a process.
All right, so it's important to note here the emergency substitute teaching license is temporary, meant just for this school year. The decision to utilize subs with this type of license varies by district. Workers for Kaiser Permanente will not strike this week. That's what the union had set as a deadline for negotiations. The union announced a tentative agreement over the weekend. It includes wage increases and language to address racial justice and staffing issues. The 3,400 employees in Oregon and Southwest Washington and 52,000 workers nationally need to vote on the contract. That's expected to begin in the coming days. Oregon's governor is in the nation's capital today as President Biden signs the new infrastructure bill into law. So here's a breakdown of some of the money coming into Oregon. The biggest chunk is $3.4 billion to upgrade roads and highways. There's $268 million for bridges, $747 million for public transportation, $52 million to build electric vehicle charging stations, $100 million dedicated to high-speed internet, and $32 million to protect against wildfires.
We'll once again have the best roads, bridges, ports, and airports over the next decade. It will lead the world into the 21st century with modern cars and trucks and transit systems. We're going to do this by building again and moving again.
Members of the administration plan to travel the country to talk about the law. The president heads to New Hampshire tomorrow and Michigan on Wednesday. The massive plan certainly won't cover everything in need of upgrade. In Snohomish County, Washington, for example, the Public Works team will get $6 million to improve some of its bridges. Crews have a plan in place for about 4 bridges, from repainting to removing excessive asphalt. But the county says it could be years before the work begins.
They're programming out several funding cycles sometimes, and we aren't able to move forward with some of these projects until that funding becomes available.
Snohomish County has 204 bridges. 37 are functionally obsolete. That means the bridge designs are no longer safe.
Okay, let's see if I can get this level in the next.
This afternoon, a driver is facing serious charges. Police
How
say
many
he
viewers?
intentionally plowed into a group of people,
see.
which included several Portland police
Let me look.
officers. It was the second dangerous situation for officers over the weekend.
5
All right,
viewers.
Benner has
Where did
more.
it go?
Debris at the corner of Northeast Sandy and Prescott.
Let me go
Evidence
back.
of what happened here just hours earlier.
Wait.
Much to the shock of neighbors like Tim Leach.
It's quiet neighborhood for the most
5
part.
Not on
viewers.
Sunday night, though. Police tell us around 11:15, a drunk driver slammed into a Portland police cruiser that then crashed into a utility pole. We're told as police investigated the crash, a second drunk driver intentionally drove into a crowd of officers and bystanders. One officer was hit, while others used a taser to get the driver under control.
Didn't hear any of that. Damn, that's harsh. Yeah, no, I couldn't dream of something like that.
On Saturday night, near Northeast 92nd and Halsey, Portland police officers found themselves in another volatile situation. During a traffic stop, investigators say, a man and woman jumped out of a car, and as they ran off, one of them shot at officers. One of the bullets hit the side mirror of a police cruiser.
It's hard to see these things happening, and definitely worried about my officers.
Sergeant Aaron Schmautz is the president
All right,
of the
I need
Portland Police Association.
4 more.
He says the
Let's
Saturday
get
and Sunday night
2
calls
right now.
highlight the
I need 3 more.
unpredictability of daily police work.
It is an odd time right now. It's a dangerous time, and I think it's really important that people understand the sacrifices that law enforcement officers make to keep them safe.
Yeah, I'd be scared for them. It's hard enough to be under that kind of pressure all the time, when you're in uniform.
Count Tim Leach among those who empathize with officers. He's relieved they escaped serious injury over the weekend and he's hoping for calmer days ahead.
There's some harsh times here, and I don't know why. I don't know why people are such a boiling point.
One of the drivers involved in Sunday night's incident was cited for DUI and reckless driving. The other was jailed on a variety of charges. But officers have not yet caught up with the people who shot at them Saturday night. If you have any information about that case, you're urged to contact the Portland Police Bureau.
Now I only need 2
You could
more.
be eligible for a $2,500 reward from Crime Stoppers. Reporting in Northeast Portland, I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
A local student is now part of a national advisory board taking on gun violence. Students Demand Action was created by students to advocate for gun safety measures. And Flynn Williams helped lead a local chapter at Lake Ridge High School in Lake Oswego. Flynn is also one of the 20 students on the group's national advisory board.
We're a bipartisan organization. Like, we have gun owners, we have Republicans. Like, it's not just a liberal non-gun owning movement. We're not trying to take guns away from law-abiding citizens. Our intention is to keep communities safe.
Flynn has been part of the effort by Students Demand Action to reduce gun access to people at risk of suicide. The group has also helped advocate for Oregon Senate Bill 554, which requires stricter gun storage and allows public buildings and school districts to restrict people from carrying guns on school grounds. Some 200 Oregon National Guard soldiers are in the Midwest. In the next 3 minutes, we'll tell you about the work they're doing to help Afghan refugees. Plus, one U.S. territory is leading the country in COVID vaccinations. Our National Verify team takes a look at the data. That's coming up at 4:30.
89, 89. All right.
Based
I
on the
need
best-selling novel, it's
2 on level 91.
Hit The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Don't miss this spectacular atypical mystery. On stage through December 24th. Purchase tickets at pcs.org.
Multnomah Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of acoustic wave therapy to fix erectile dysfunction, so you can restore yourself to normal function in the bedroom with no side effects or downtime, and without the need for surgery, even if the pill
All right,
stops
let me
working.
try and I
Call
have
today
3
and
minutes
schedule your
left to
free
level
medical
up
assessment
on my
and blood
game.
flow ultrasound with our board
I should
certified
register
medical
for that
providers.
speaker that starts in
Stop
3 minutes.
treating the
What do you think?
symptoms and start fixing the problem. Call today and put a stop to your ED now, or visit us at the web at multnomahmedical.com.
What makes Salonpas arthritis gel so good for arthritis pain? Salonpas contains the most prescribed
All right,
topical
so
pain relief
let's get
ingredient.
that
It's
one, and then I
clinically
just need
proven,
one more.
reduces inflammation and comes in original prescription
Then I'll be
strength.
on level
Salonpas, it's good
792.
I was having a lot of sinus infections. My sinuses were clogged, pressure, headaches.
Linda suffered for years with chronic sinus infection, but now her issues are gone. How? A minimally invasive procedure performed in the office of the Modern Nose Clinic, called balloon sinuplasty.
I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I would definitely recommend it for someone else.
Do you suffer with chronic sinus infections? Set an appointment today with the Modern Nose Clinic.
Mice and rats getting too cozy? Call the Killers to your local pest pros. Thorough, on time, effective. The Killers get the job
All
If
right,
you've
there,
done
level
this,
up.
You know a thing or two about innovation. If you've done this, you have
I have to
an
collect
iron
47 pairs of the
And if
next
you've done
level
this,
socks.
we feel sorry for you. If you're familiar with any of this, you know what it means to go beyond what's required. And at
All right,
Safe
let's
Source,
see.
we have Medicare coverage for you with $0 premium plans
Craft.
and $0
How many
copays
craft
with select
pairs
prescription
do I
medications,
need?
plus highly rated in-network
I have
doctors. And there's
5.
so
How
much
many
more
do I
too,
need?
like
Let's see if I
$0
need
gym
them for an
memberships
achievement.
and global emergency assistance.
I think I should take my allergy medicine. My eyes are bothering me, and I already got a migraine order that affected my vision yesterday.
Low-cost hearing aids and a free exam,
All right.
as well as rewards for completing a routine physical and
I don't
other
need
preventive
craft,
care
so
services.
let's just
Whether you call Pacific Source today on this device or
89,
this device,
89.
you'll speak to a knowledgeable Medicare professional who can explain your options and take as much time as you need. Or visit MedicareBeyond.org to explore on your own.
If you live in Multnomah County, the property tax deadline is November 15th. Now you can pay your property taxes with 4 safe, easy, and convenient payment options. Pay online, by phone, by mail, or by Dropbox.
Welcome back. Members of
Oh,
the
it's
Oregon
5
National
o'clock. Maybe I
Guard
should
are in the
actually
Midwest,
register for
helping
that.
refugees from Afghanistan. About 250 members are there as part of a year-long deployment. The soldiers are from a military police unit and an engineering group. They're working to protect and assist the refugees at a military base outside Indianapolis. It's one of 8 bases helping resettle about 82,000 Afghan refugees across the U.S.
We have a lot of soldiers that do foot patrol, and they are definitely immersed with the Afghan population, especially the children. They're very fascinated with everything that we're doing.
The kids are the fun part. I often see my soldiers.
Recording in progress. Unfortunately, the international media seems to prefer to focus on conflict in the region more attentively than they focus on the gifts that this country brings the entire world. So I have been for the last 3 weeks in Israel myself, and I'm still there right now. And frankly, I've been overwhelmed with what this tiny country has invented, has created, and has facilitated in the fields of health and high tech and agriculture and so many more. Well, tonight, we want to shine the spotlight on the incredible efforts of Tikkun Olam, the healing of the world that stems from our wonderful homeland. David Kramer is a former IDF soldier. He's a United Nations spokesperson and a social entrepreneur, and he started a wonderful organization called State of the Heart for this expressive reason. He made it his mission to be sure that these stories of Israel's remarkable humanitarian efforts get heard on a global scale. He's also the author of a fantastic book called State of the Heart, the story of humanitarian Israel. And this book is a collection, really, of over 50 stories that describe the benevolence and the altruism that characterizes the very soul of Israel. And I'm so excited to hear and share with you all of these wonderful stories that I'm sure will inspire all of us to become active and engaged members of our communities so that we can all do our part to make a difference. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Adrian. It's great to be here.
I'm just so delighted. I read your book literally in one shot from morning till night. I loved it. I cried. I laughed. Can you explain to me really what the book, the organization, which came first? Why was it so important for you to launch this project?
All right, Adrian, for the past 10 years in Israel, I've been running a social venture involving Israeli organizations all over the world. I've had the privilege and the honor to work with some of the most inspiring people that I've ever come across. And after doing this for so many years and telling their stories, I can almost tell their stories better than they can. I came to the conclusion that I needed to put them down. I needed to write a book where I bring these stories of people that, for no other reason than the goodwill of trying to help other people both in Israel and around the world, of all denominations, of all backgrounds. I decided to put them down on a piece of paper, and I've had the privilege of publishing this book last year, the beginning of last year.
Yeah, so this was a work both of your soul and of your heart. Clearly, you are a patriotic, Zionistic Jew, but more importantly, it sounds to me like you yourself were very, very moved by the things you saw and heard. And I think it's amazing that you decided to share that, and God willing, it will become a bestseller. So can you give me some examples, for example, of some of the things you've told from the organization, some of the stories that you feel you can tell better than anyone else?
The book is a collection of over 50 stories. One of my most fantastic stories, which comes to mind, was after the earthquake in Haiti. It was one of the worst natural disasters that the world had ever seen. Over 100,000 people were killed. Over 1 million people lost their homes. And one of the big stories that came out of Haiti was that the first country to respond to Haiti, before any other country, in fact before the United States, which is right next door, was the State of Israel. And there's a story which happens, I'll tell it to you very quickly. it was Shabbat morning. A group of ultra-Orthodox search and rescue workers had flown from Mexico that flown from Israel via Mexico because they were there in Mexico helping with the helicopter crash. And they arrived on Shabbat morning in Haiti. Again, it's the Shabbat, and these are ultra-Orthodox Jews. They were members of an organization, some of the best search and rescue workers in the world. And they were led to a collapsed building, a university building in the capital city of Port-au-Prince. And they took over from the American and French teams who had been working, 24 hours around the clock. And after 6 hours, the Israelis reached the trapped students. And they started to pull one by one from the building. They pulled 23 university students from the building. Now, the Haitians that were living around this building started to gather and watch the sight of these strange-looking ultra-Orthodox Jews with their payot and kippot pulling their fellow countrymen away out of the rubble. Haitians are they're extremely superstitious. And one of the Israelis turned to their friends after the operation had ended, after they'd rescued all the university students, and he said, "Friends, it's the Shabbat. It's still the Sabbath. We haven't prayed." So they took out their talitot. They took out their standing on top of the rubble of the building. They took out their talitot. They faced Jerusalem and they started to pray. Now these Haitians are watching these Jews pray towards Jerusalem, and the sight you have to try and imagine. These covered in white shawls. These guys are swaying up and down towards praying, and the Haitians thought that these were angels, the way that they described it. And they came up to the Israeli team, and they started to hug and kiss them. Some of them even started to bow down to them. And I just think, for me, the story just brings so many different narratives together. The fact that Jews from Israel are standing on a pile of rubble across the world on Sabbath, praying after just saving, total strangers that a couple of hours ago they had no idea who these people were. It just really just embodies what the state of Israel represents today.
I think it's worthwhile to mention, because you mentioned the fact that they were ultra-Orthodox a few times. I think it's important to mention that one of the fundamental tenets about what it means to be an observant Jew is to recognize the principle of pikuach nefesh, which is to save a life. And that supersedes everything. To save a life, whether it's Sabbath or Yom Kippur or anything else, that can come first. And so in many ways, they are working on the Sabbath in that way is a true expression of what it means to be a Jew, I think. So, you took what you took, and I took that, because that really is the direction that I'm looking at. Now, what about Surfside? It's still very, near, and I knew people who were involved in it, and it's painful, and yet some of the most profoundly moving footage about how they responded to the Israelis was there. Can you show me a little bit of that? Can we maybe take a look at that clip for a second?
Incident happened around 2 o'clock this morning when most people were sleeping.
Hundreds of rescue workers have been going through the rubble, and some family members, desperate for more information on their loved ones, are still waiting. Surveillance cameras nearby captured the chilling moments. The building pancaked as people were asleep in their homes.
Search and rescue efforts continue at this hour, 10 hours after the first calls for help.
Police tonight saying 99 people are unaccounted for.
And as search and rescue efforts continuing now into day 4, Israel sending an elite team of specialists to go about. A 10-person team, including Homefront Command reservists and representatives from the foreign ministry, heading off to Florida late Saturday night.
When I heard of the collapse, I was thinking we can help. We specialize in building destructions. We call ourselves ISR-1. Our main objective is to give assistance and to save life inside Israel. We took part in more than 30 overseas operations, from earthquakes to floods, hurricanes, fires, COVID, warfare, engineering failures, terror attacks, and we saved many lives. We saw that we can support the American teams by providing them our methodology. We have in Homefront Command Intelligence Center that provided us technology support, which included 3D models. Those models enables us to know exactly where are we standing, to find some anchors.
From the moment that the Israeli army showed up to assist, you could just tell that the professionals, their work ethic. As soon as they arrived, we attached them to our teams, and they worked as one. And you could just tell that these individuals were in the right place. More importantly for ourselves, they reaffirmed with the families that everything possible that could be done for the families were being done.
First, we questioned all the families. It took us 30 hours to question each one of the family members in order to provide us the right intelligence so we can point, we can put the exact location of each and one of their loved ones inside the apartment.
Israelis came in and said, okay, this is how the building fell. This is where the apartments are. This is how we should look for the bedrooms. I drew out, where were the bedrooms? Where was the furniture? What kind of furniture? And they made me feel included, and they helped guide me, right, asking the right questions. And I think that really made a difference in how the search went.
People need to be part of the rescue efforts. Like, I'm a mother, and I was just thinking about me in the same
Featured page doesn't work.
The moment that I realized that, we are doing it together.
The day we declared that we are moving from search and rescue to search and recovery, which means that there is no chance to find lives under the rebels. It was a very, very hard moment. The pain in the air. It's something I never experienced in my life.
You see the families after 2, 3, 4 days, you get related and you hug them, and you know that they will not find their loved one alive. Or you remember what was the conditions, the situation of the relative that you have just extracted from the rubbles 2, 3 hours ago. So for me it was challenging, it was difficult, and it was unique. It was the first mission that I deal this combination between life and death.
I cannot imagine what it took to film that. And I imagine that there were things happening behind the scenes that were not captured on film. Just the level of solemnity, the weight of that, the pride mixed with the horror. What was that like for you? What did you see and what did you notice that perhaps was not captured in that film?
This video that we produced was one of the challenging things I've ever produced in my career. The amount of footage that we had, the amount of stories that they told us, we spent an entire day with the team when they regrouped after the event and they discussed the rescue, the search and recovery efforts. So we filmed the entire thing, and there were so many things that we captured. Condensing the story into 7 minutes. 7 minutes has been one of the greatest challenges. And hopefully one day we'll get the opportunity to produce a full-length documentary. I'll tell you an incredible thing that happened, Adrian. The week that we produced the video, I was students at my home in Jerusalem, and we like every Shabbat dinner, we go around the table and we get everyone to introduce themselves. And one of the kids tells me that his surname is Ainsworth. And I take a look at this guy again, and I said to him, "Can you just repeat your name again?" And he tells me it's Ainsworth. I said to him, "Tell me, is there any chance that some of your relatives were killed in the building collapse in Surfside?" And he told me his grandparents unfortunately were in the building at the time of the collapse. I said to him, I turned to him and I said to him, I need to speak at the end of this meal. if you don't mind staying behind. And I just finished filming the day before. And the reason why I was so shocked is that Colonel Golan that you heard in the beginning, he tells us a story which it was too long to put in the video, but he told us a story that when he arrived at the hotel in Surfside, a man was shouting the number 1104 at him from across the room. And he first thought the guy was a little crazy, so he kind of ignored him. Then the guy carried on and it got louder and louder until he eventually walked up to him and he said to him, "Tell me, what is this number 1104? He said, 1104 is the number of the apartment that my parents live. You are going to find him alive in the next few days, and next week I'm inviting you to my home, and we're going to celebrate the fact that you found my family." And this was the son of the Ainsworth family. My Golan carried on whatever he had to do that week, and he said a few days later he was standing in the building, and he heard one of the American firefighters shout to his colleague, "This is 1104. So he said to the guy, "What did you say?" He said 1104. He said, "You're saying apartment 1104, you found apartment 1104? The guy said, "Yes, sir." He said he called the entire Israeli delegation, and he said, "Guys, this is my apartment." And he describes the event in great detail, that he himself took it upon himself to find the parents, to find the grandparents. He found them, and he said that he treated them like his own parents. The amount of attention and care they gave them, as he gave to everyone, but in this particular case, he was a little bit more connected because he remembered the incident in the beginning. And he accompanied them from the moment that he found them through their burial. He took care of everything that needed to take place, and he took it upon himself to go and break the terrible news to the family. The Ainsworth family is actually an Australian family that was living in Miami, and their daughter gave birth, I think 2 days afterwards, to a grandchild, and they invited Golan to the bris, and he was the Sunday. He was the one that held the baby during the Brit Milah.
Okay, this is not
So
opening.
here at Momentum, we call those HP moments. Hashgacha pratit, obviously, right? Odd or God, higher power. But to hear that in Israel, that had come so full circle, and you ended up in that, well, I mean, it's not really surprising. What does it mean, really? Is just a sense of responsibility, a sense of kind of unity without uniformity, for sure, but a sense of responsibility, one for the other. Tell me how that plays out for you.
Today, Adrian, I think one of the most ironic accusations against the state of Israel is the fact that we're accused of being a country of people that have no regard for human life. Because if you really want to sum up all the anti-Israel movements, all the different organizations, you want to sum up the bottom line of what they're all trying to tell us, is that you guys do not regard, you have no regard for human life. And the greatest irony, and again, it's not a contest, but you cannot find a country and a people that have more regard for human life than the Jewish people and the state of Israel. And you see this everywhere. Today in Israel, we have over 32,000 charities, which is more than any other country in the world, which, for Israelis, that's not such a great thing because it just shows that everyone's competing for the same ideas. But from an outside point of view, it just shows that this is a society that really cares about what's going on. Israel, we've sent over 140 official global aid delegations since the state of Israel was born, and hundreds, if not thousands of more unofficial ones to every corner of the world. The Jewish state is helping people regardless of what they believe. In fact, one of the organizations that I wrote about helps people in Islamic countries that if they found out that these were Jews and these were Israelis, who knows what they would do with them. And you see this just across every industry, in the innovation space, the business space in Israel. We have over 7,500 startup companies which are answering some of the biggest global issues and challenges today, and helping literally millions of people around the world. And I think the question that you asked, what is the Jewish people? It's a question that is constantly evolving. But I think it's whatever whatever the answer is, it's happening right now, and it's happening in front of us.
You know, this is really what it means to be a light among nations. People often ask what that means. But, you know, it's not just standing there and reflecting what life could look like. It's actually sharing your light, like moving your light. You know, I was fortunate enough to listen to 4 very high-ranking female soldiers in the IDF the other night. And some of the audience were asking these kind of questions. Why is it that we only hear about, you know, Israeli soldiers as being all of the vile things that they say about us when we know that this is not the case? And one of the women, who is actually she's in intelligence, but she controls where they drop the bombs, says that she has spent days watching a monitor to get everyone out of the house, which is a clear target, only to have them bring more people onto the roof in order to prevent her from firing. Days, and then